Yeah.
Lots of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta introduce you to probably my toughest beta reader, and I mean that in like the best possible way, right?
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, but I had to meet. So, Jagtress, do you want me to just go with Jagtress for
Yeah.
okay? So this is Jagtress. I met Jag at CanCon, and we ended up talking at the Dead Dog of CanCon probably to the wee hours of the morning. Her and her partner in crime, Jet_Sword, were the last people to see me off in Ottawa, actually, because we got along really famously, and we still talk to this day. And Jag is also probably my most frequent, not my only one, but my most frequent streamer. Shows up, says hi, asks questions of some of the guests I have, and she's a streamer herself and a writer. So I thought, she got to me when I did streamer, like, why didn't you invite me? So I invited her.
You called me out. It was funny. Because I knew it was going to happen, too. When I saw you in Jet's chat, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Well, I think I'm a very unique cat, apparently, because I will call people out on their shit, right? I will call them out, and I'll answer the call, too. Like, you call me out, it's like, okay, let's do it.
I was just going to say, well, I kind of do the exact same thing, so, like, I kind of expect it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean that's
if you're gonna call someone out, if he who calls out has to be willing to be called out. That's just the way it is. Right? Yeah. I have never claimed that my shit doesn't stink. Sometimes it does. Like sometimes it really, really does. Right? And I'm being like openly honest about that because it's just one of those things where it's like I cannot be a positive, happy, like somewhat have a sense of ethos if I myself didn't care. My shit stinks. Never. I mean that
exactly.
I'd be a hypocrite.
Exactly.
And, and while I do have some paradoxes in me for sure, because I'm certainly not perfect, I try to be honest about my flaws. So I mean, you're gonna call me out, great. But if I call you out and you answer the call, well, guess what? I guess I got no choice. I got to be here. I got to do my thing, and that's just the way it is. So you called me out, so here you are.
Yeah, I did. So I want to just like leap off to that. Something about storytelling and video games is perfectly crosses over right now. Just fascinated me. I willingly decided to write a game review for Cyberpunk 2077, which had a lot of negative criticism from the launch and then just sort of carried over for months and months after it. And Cyberpunk 2077 kind of kept me sane and was just really fun to relax in and drive around on my motorbike and just look at the beautiful landscapes in the game. But you have to deal with this conflict of a character, Johnny Silverhand. And because I'm playing a street kid, it means sometimes you're given different prompts. And one of the prompts was to be able to react to something that Johnny did with some kind of like snide remark or, you know, like a shots fired kind of statement. And I said the thing, and then the brilliant writing of this game was that Johnny then fired something back at me, and I was like, fuck you, Johnny, but thank you, I respect you for the fact that you didn't just like take it and leave kind of deal, like you threw it back at me. it's something that I like, is if you throw something at people and they throw it back at you, you're like, all right, you've earned my respect, you know? Like
fair, right? It's totally fair.
It was
so my game I like that nobody else likes is Final Fantasy 13. That's the game I like that nobody.
Yeah.
Hey, Curry, how you doing?
Nico lady. You have to message me later. Just saying.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But no, like with the like for me, it's like I know it's a linear game, and the main game has so many flaws to it. Right? I'm glad you're doing all right, Curry. It's nice to meet you. I'm Josh. I write stuff. I know Jag's the star here. I'm just here to look pretty. Actually, she's probably pretty one too.
Actually, not entirely wrong. I told people about this beforehand. I've been shilling this all week.
Yes, no, I know. I'm not sure, but thank you very much. I really mean that. I really do. But no, like for me, but I love the side quests. Like the side quests in the game are so in depth. The meta of the game is amazing. I love the meta. The main game, not so much. The main game, meh. Like it's I get why people don't like the game. I really do.
Yeah.
But the side quests are worth it. It's actually, if you invest in the game, it rewards you tremendously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very similar to Cyberpunk, because there are many sort of side missions that you do that are amazing Easter eggs. They're just fun. They're also so well written that you get a lot of really good character development out of everybody you sort of encounter, that's not just like the nameless enemies that you're killing, right? But the people you can actually converse with, like, they have backstory. And sometimes there was one situation where Jet he plays a nomad and I'm playing a street kid, and I went into one encounter and he was watching the stream because his computer is right next to the TV that I play on when I'm at his place.
Okay.
And he looked over and I walked in, like I snuck in the back. I went through the door. I got into the guy's office and he's like, "Who the fuck are you?" Because it's Cyberpunk, you know. And I'm like, "Well, I'm looking for some information, da da da." And I did the very diplomatic thing, because when you're a street kid, you do everything that you possibly can to survive. And a lot of times that means I'm talking through situations where other players would be like, "I'm just going to go in and kill everybody and get the loot." Right? And I'm like, to me, it's more valuable to do this like Shadowrun style and be smart about it when you're a street kid. So I talk to this guy, I get the information I need, I go on the quest, and then I find out some of the awful things that this guy has done. And it gives you an optional quest to go off and actually kill him because of the things that he's done. And it's a choice that you make, and I'm like, I love this because I wouldn't have known that. Whereas Jet went into the same situation and he's like, "I'm a nomad. I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to murder everybody, get the loot." And he still managed to progress the story, but just in a different manner, because it has to be designed that way, you know? And I just find it very interesting that you get more of an experience in certain games like Cyberpunk through the side quests. And it does change a bunch of things, apparently, if you do the side quests than if you just go straight through the storyline.
Yeah, like 13's is nowhere, I think, near as advanced a game, like in terms of mechanics and stuff like that. But I just like the mythos of Pulse and Cocoon is much more fascinating when you take the time to actually explore Grand Pulse.
Exactly.
And right, and also you get to kill giant. Also, you get to see all the Final Fantasy stuff actually really matter. Like the cactuars show up, the Tonberries. So
yes.
Yeah. I'm actually at the point, like I'm at the end of chapter 11. So I'm actually doing a lot of the side quests now, not all of them, but the fun ones. Last one I'm doing is Tonberry, because so like that was the one I was like,
yep.
I'm old enough. My first Tonberry experience was back in the days of Final Fantasy VI, and I had no idea what the Tonberry was. I got scared because I was unloading with everything I had back in the day, and it was still coming closer to me. And I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen when this gets to me, but I know it's bad. And I know he's tough because I just hit him with my bum rushed him, I chainsawed him, I hit him with everything I could, every powerful spell I had. I was like, and he's still coming. What is he going to do to me? And that was my first experience with the Tonberry. That was my Tonberry experience. And ever since then, you get a healthy respect for Tonberries, because they tend to like, oh god, they're so cool. I've had
Definitely.
I want to bring this point up, because we're talking about we'll talk about good games too, like games that are really that are good, that everybody likes and why they're good. But one of the things is we're both storytellers.
Yeah.
And what I'm really fascinated about with games is games have another language that actually adds to storytelling. And
Mhm.
actually, and this is where I think games are better than books and any other form of medium. It's interaction. The
Yep.
only other art form that kind of does that is music in terms of the concert going experience.
I agree.
That's where like music can kind of compete with video games. You can't do that with a video game.
Yeah.
But the fact that I have choices that I can interact with the game, and those interactions create consequences in that game,
Mhm.
right? That's where games are so far ahead of books. Books
Oh,
are
yeah.
great experiences, but you can't do that in a book. Choose your own adventures are cool once, but you can't
Yeah.
replay them. You can't replay them. Whereas games, yeah, you can, and that's what makes them so damn good.
Exactly. I am going to to say something that potentially, well, I mean, people that know me probably know about this fact, if you will. But you know, books can do a lot of really cool things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But movies can really sell you on things that books might not have the same method of. Like, it just doesn't have the same impact, and a lot of that, for me personally, has a lot to do with, the characters themselves. It has to do with the music, and it has to do with, like, the presentation of what is happening. So in I think it was yesterday's video that I did up. I was talking about, I'm editing my novel through Patreon, right? And so I was explaining something about this particular scene that I'm in the middle of editing, where it's sort of like a dream sequence, and dream sequence are very difficult to deal with when you're writing, because sometimes it just doesn't come across like it is a dream sequence, or it's overdone to the point that people are like, oh, come on, find a better way to show like the intention. And one of the ways that movies can sometimes showcase something like that kind of brilliantly, by example, is from a series that not everybody likes, certainly, and that's out of Twilight. In the books, there is, so if you haven't read or watched them, stop listening for a couple of minutes. But in the books, when Alice goes to show the Volturi, this is what's going to happen if you pursue this action. She shows the Volturi because she can see the future, but in the book, it's not described what she showed the Volturi. But in the movie version, it goes into this epic battle, and
Mm-hmm.
so many of the characters die. And I remember being in the theaters on opening day, how many people walked out. I almost walked out, actually, because I was so pissed off at some of the characters that died. And I'm like, okay, you've gone so far from the books at this point that,
Oh,
oh my god, right?
but see, you know what really
But
really
it was
I read
brilliant.
no, it was I okay. So we're gonna there's a lot to unpack here. So we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk first about the books, because I think
Yeah.
that's where we're good start. I've read the series
Mm.
myself. So I love Meyer's ability to do Bella's like voice. Her voice is incredible.
Yes.
That's the strength of Twilight. Is the voice is so strong.
Hmm.
Storytelling wise, there are some things about it that have some definite flaws. I mean, they don't age
Definitely.
well as you read it again.
Yep.
However, that voice is so strong. And honestly, what killed me about reading those books is they built up to this battle and they didn't deliver. And
Yeah.
that I know why, because she was
Yeah.
referencing an old Shakespearean play, and that was basically what she retold that in a very fun way.
Oh, interesting. See, I had watched interviews leading up to that where she said, I was so tired of just seeing everybody like, oh, well, now we're going into a war scenario, and I wanted it to be a like a diplomatic, like, let's talk it out, let's negotiate kind of scenario. Um
She
which I
kind
thought
of
was interesting, but it was just, badly written.
No, it was she kind of cheated there because
Yeah.
no, she cheated because here's why she cheated. It wasn't that it wasn't a diplomatic solution. There still was a battle. It was just different than what.
Yeah.
She defied expectations too much. The
Yeah.
thing is, Volturi had to respect the Coven.
Cullens.
It was the only way. It was the only way they would leave them alone.
Exactly.
So showing a show of force was actually required, and she did, kind of.
Yeah.
But not in a way that was satisfying because it wasn't the expectation. What needed to happen in that scene that did not happen is the Volturi needed to be humiliated a little bit. Their egos had to get knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
And that was the satisfaction. These pricks that had made these rules for everybody to follow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're facing someone as strong, maybe stronger than. That's humbling. That's humbling when you realize all your magic tricks don't work.
Yeah.
Right? And she did not sell that point enough. If she had,
I think I would agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, if she had, it would have worked perfectly. Because it was she had to show force. What she wanted to do was show force in a way that wasn't conventional, which I think is actually a fantastic idea. Defying expectations can be a lot of fun, but you have to play with expectations.
Exactly.
Okay? Right? You have to play with them, and
definitely
that part she didn't do in a movie. So they have the benefit of hindsight. There's two things. There's the benefit of hindsight because they have the book, but they also, and this is the part that doesn't get stated enough about movies. Have you ever worked on a movie set?
Yes. I did do some acting like through high school and did volunteer for a couple of things.
Okay.
Later on.
So then then you're gonna respect this point, I think, a lot. Then actors and actresses bring so much to a script. The idea, and the fact of the matter is, they had a crew that they just showed a hint of what could have been, and that was fun. It actually added a big layer. Again, it showed the consequences in a way that a book could not, simply because you could imagine it. And again, it's one of those things like that point of consequence and that humiliation, the feeling of humiliation, of humbling for Volturi, that wasn't there. If it had been, the book would have worked. It didn't. So, but in the movies, they did a better job of that. Because again, they had the benefit of hindsight. They had the benefit of good actors and actresses. Say what you will about the movies, Yeah, the cast was actually decent. All things considered. Yeah.
I credit so much. Well, most of the actors. I did a lot of research into like various roles that the other actors of the film have taken on since Twilight and like what they've done with their careers, and I have found more and more interesting things about them as actors, and I respect them a lot more because I can see the breadth, like the range that they have, and one of my favorite actors in the whole series is actually Michael Sheen. Like, he's just fucking brilliant in everything he does. But he played like that vampire with the Volturi so well that I was just like, I am sold 100% on your character. Like, just that's it.
But I mean, the benefit of that is the movies were successful. Like, say what you like, they're not memorable. Like, I will never really remember outside the baseball game in the very first movie.
Really,
I enjoy, like, that was actually, I think, the one thing that Meyer did, I thought that was fantastic, was that concept of baseball
is epic.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah,
that is honestly, it's my favorite scene in the entire series. Because it's what would you do if you had superpowers?
Yeah.
How would you take a game that, like, Chess was born because he's like the mind reader versus the future predictor. That's like, he wins. Click. I mean, really, I mean that's a cheat. But
Yeah.
baseball, they can show off their abilities. You can see them all having fun in a way that fits their characters. It was such
It does.
it was so well done. Like I love it told you more about all those characters than most of her descriptions ever did. All of
Mhm.
them. And that I thought was
Yeah.
I thought that was the incredible part of the story. Like I said, there are flaws we could definitely go into with the series because there are
Sure.
some ginormous ones.
Oh yeah.
But the voice, some of the things she imagined, like there, like you could see why that was a hit. Like you can honestly, legitimately see it.
Yeah.
And kudos to everybody. I mean that for their success. Like I don't hold. People want to argue success, like so whether it's good or bad. It's like it doesn't really matter. It's a hit. Like
Yeah.
I mean, let's go to like the I think it's some of the worst writing I've ever read. 50 Shades of Grey. It's
Oh
terrible.
fuck that! No, that can die in a fire.
Yeah, it's terrible. But you cannot deny success. As much as you may want to hate.
Sure. I still want, it's the only book series I want to have burned. I actually had a friend come over to my place and he was like, my girlfriend really wants to read this. I'm like, take it. I don't want it. Get rid of it. He's like, I'll return it. I'm like, no, don't. Seriously, get rid of this.
Yeah, I don't want this anymore. No, I've given books away. Like I give books away because I like them. I don't usually give them away because I want them gone. But I mean, that's like I want you to enjoy this book. No,
Yeah.
you're doing me a favor. Just never. I never want.
Yeah, we're never going to talk about this again.
But again, if you look at her from a marketing standpoint, you look at her from like just it's a hit.
Yeah,
right?
well, she played off of people not understanding an entire group of people, and also played off of the success of someone who happened to fall into it. So I kind of don't really like the way that happened for E.R. James.
Listen, I get it, but but we gotta give the devil their due. That's kind of how I look at it. It's like you have to give the devil your due sometimes, right?
Sure. But she really should have done her research. She pissed off way too many people with the 50 Shades of Grey series.
No, absolutely. No. I agree with you totally and utterly. Like, a gal I dated, she's kind of into that culture a little bit. Like, we didn't really go all that far before things, like, we're still really good friends. But it was one of those things where I was like, okay, you really, like, I don't think people understand how much trust those kinds of relationships are really based on.
No, you have to. Like, trust and safety. Like, there has to be, like, you have to really know the person that you're engaging with, because it is a safety risk. You can, depending on what your kink is, you can legitimately kill people. Like, I have a lot of friends that have had this discussion where the number one thing you have to worry about and to think about is, you know, if you're dealing with anything like handcuffs or anything where you're restraining, you have to have wire cutters. You have to have something to get them out of that situation quickly.
Yeah.
Because also you have to consider the legal aspect where if you accidentally kill your partner, even though it's consensual, that's still considered manslaughter.
Yes.
You know, you're still going to be charged for that. And like, people have to know there are real risks with this. And here's 50 Shades of Grey that seems to throw all of that by the wayside. And it's like, no, this is a bad example of what to do in that scenario. Like,
yeah. Oh no, I'm not disagreeing with you one bit on that. It's like again, but you know,
she made a lot of money, and what has she done since then? Nothing.
That's okay. Like that's okay, and that's good. Like that's the downside of that path. Is, you know what, you may only have that one hit, and you know, Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird's a great book.
I hated that book.
It's still great. No, but it's still good. Like it got look. She didn't do a sequel for 50 years. She lived off that one book for a long time.
And here we are how long later, and it's still being taught in school. It's
Yeah,
still like a staple.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
it's just not something that I like at the. So I was just explaining this earlier today. The way I look at, fictional worlds. Oh wait,
Were we curious? No, that book was bad. Look, the reason I picked that example, Caritas, is that book is terrible. Like, there's no one here is talking about quality of writing, right? Right. We're talking about those. All I pointed out was the cold hard numbers for every.
yeah,
Right. All that was like we're talking about the like, in spite of anything and everything, right? You can't argue success. You just
mhm.
can't. And bully for her, and that's all I'm going to say, because honestly, I could trash her, but everybody trashes her, right? And
True.
and and, and again, if you want to talk about strictly her writing style, I'm with you. I'll sign up. But
Yeah,
I also feel that that just makes her more money. So
yeah.
that's why it's like, give her her due and let her go, because you know what? Then you don't have to worry about it anymore.
I mean, that's a fair way of looking at it, right?
Well,
It's
you have to, right? You have to, because it's like, you don't ask why things are successful sometimes, because you just, there are things, there are puzzles that cannot be solved. They are created just for us,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And you just like, you can go mad thinking about it, or you can be like, okay, you got this. I'm gonna give you this now. I'm just gonna give it to you.
The golf clap.
Yeah, the golf club. I'll give you the golf class. I'll give it to you, so I don't have to deal with you anymore. Sometimes you get like, give people their wins. If you give people their wins, you move on instead of everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, just you can go away. That's funny. Nico, one day we'll talk about it, because you're in the city, and when things are safe, we have to go for like coffee or something.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk at length. And I can explain it. Oops. Sorry. I killed
So
everybody. Everybody? Okay.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, honestly, if this doesn't work out, Ottawa is actually one of the places I'm looking at. Like, it's
Yeah, I listened to your podcast the other day where you were talking about, well, I was thinking about Ottawa, and I was thinking about this place, and I was thinking about this place, and I'm like, really? Nobody wants to come to Ottawa? What the hell? Mom!
yeah. You got coffee date confirmed.
Excellent.
I actually know a lot of you guys. Oh, I actually, the thing is, I have strong connections. Ottawa, I have strong connections. Hello, the animated lady. How you doing?
That's me, Ma.
Is that your mom?
Yeah.
Well, hello, Jag's mom. Listen, Jag's an awesome human being. I appreciate her very much. I'm sure you know this. I'm sure you don't always tell her this, because, again, keep her level
Oh,
and
she
grounded.
does.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. Me level and grounded, that never happens. If I'm grounded, something horrible has gone wrong.
Okay.
Seriously.
Okay, it's fair. He's laughing at that. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. No, but no, talking like, if you want to talk like good books, and we'll talk good video games in a little bit too. Like, I'm
Mhm.
really enjoying Veronica Ross' Chosen Ones concept. It's actually
Mhm.
kind of fun. I love what I love about it. Like you've seen my work. I love playing with design inside a book, about like how to tell stories like inside the books.
I'm gonna tell you something that you're gonna find wild.
Okay.
Okay, so you have this Alice work, right? And because the way I look at fiction is like, I want to be taken for the ride. I don't think about it. I didn't stop to think that it had anything to do with Alice in Wonderland. It was clearly obvious, and I just missed it entirely. And the same can be said for the video game Alice. A friend of mine a long time ago. This is the wild part. You're gonna laugh at me. I swear to God. In that one scene, it's fairly close to the beginning of the game. You have to go through like a very small hole in the wall to get to like the next puzzle, right? Well, any rational, normal, sane human being would be like, oh, you're gonna take the shrinking potion that's on the table. And I'm sitting there going, this is a horror game, or it seemed to be like a horror game at the time, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself the worst, and I'm like, oh God, you're gonna have to cut off your legs and crawl through, aren't you? And my friend, horrified, looks at me and goes, "What kind of story do you think this is?" And now I still have yet to play the game, but like I can never get that image out of my head where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna survive.
And it's funny because I was thinking about, like, you're talking about your dream sequence in your book, and I'm like, Alice in Wonderland might be a great way for you to look at solving the problem, because one of the best ways to deal with dreams is they don't have to make sense, and and all you really have to do is show the acceptance of the situation, and then once you do that, you can just go with it. Basically, you tell the audience that, like, all you gotta do is tell the audience, yes, this is strange, but I'm going with the ride anyway.
Yeah,
and they'll go with you. Like, as long as you don't lie to your audience, right?
Yeah.
You can play with them. You can thwart all their expectations in ways that are really, really, really fun. Don't sell them short on what you deliver.
Yeah.
That's the big rule. That's the big rule. Which is why one of my 3 questions when I sent you the last piece of work is, did I cheat? Because if the answer is yes, if you feel it, if enough of you guys say yes, I fix it, because I don't want you to feel cheated at the end. I think the ending makes sense, but I can definitely create a little bit more of a journey of how we get there for sure. And I still might do that in the next draft, but I want an initial impression before I make that decision, because
Yeah, exactly. And so the person who I had edit my book is actually Sonia. And it's funny because Sonia and I think a lot alike. So when I'm in editing form, I'm in analytical mode. If she is like, this isn't needed, it's redundant, I get rid of it. I don't even think about it. I just move on. It's like, that's fine. There's minor things where I'm like, and then I have to do this, and this, and do I really want to do that? How can I fix this to do, it'll like,
oh yeah, sure.
But for the most part, it's me going, okay, delete, change that, delete, change that, and then there's the odd, remark where she's like, okay, so in the previous paragraph, you said the following, and now you're saying this. So which is it? And that's a fault of me going, oh, I forgot, so in an earlier version of Agnes the Beast, I actually had my protagonist kidnapped twice in back-to-back scenes. Back-to-back scenes. Like, I was reading and I'm like, what would be really cool right now if she was kidnapped? And then I wrote the scene and then I continued to edit and went, oh, I already kidnapped her. So I had to like merge the 2 scenes into one. Because I legitimately forgot I did it. Oh, it was so bad.
So when I'm in edit mode, like the little like cut, this is redundant, this and this, like I'm pretty much, I go with the editors on that. The only time I really push back on editors sometimes is it's okay, why? Like, sometimes they'll ask me, why are you doing this? And then I explain it to them. And they're like, okay. Sometimes there's vision alignment things. So ultimately, it's my vision. But
absolutely.
Right. But it's also more along the lines of the fact that you have to recognize the fact that the editor is looking at what they see, and what they see, and almost, I would say 90% of it is good. 5% of it is probably not necessary, and there's about 5% of wiggle room where you both are you're negotiating this, because we need to figure out a solution to this problem. And sometimes you have an editor that's like just amazing and just blows your mind away with their solution. I was like, so I had this idea of the unicorn initially talking in Wingdings and the Cloud Diver, because I thought that would be funny.
Yeah.
Then Ellen's solution was better than mine. I was like, damn it, that's why you're the editor.
That's so funny. It's really interesting. I know that I have a writing group that we used to meet up in coffee shops and stuff in downtown Ottawa, and I was struggling with this one scene in Agnes where I was just trying to figure out, okay, how much time does the character technically have to live because, upping the stakes, right? Like how much time because of what was going on. I'm like, okay, they're encased in an ice block. They've got a dragon that's about to eat them because it's hungry, and I'm just like, so I say out loud in the coffee shop to my writing people group, saying, which would kill my character faster? Would it be like hyperthermia from being encased in ice? Hello, welcome.
Welcome to the
Or
show.
would the character die from like the stomach acid of the dragon? And of course, leave it to writers. To my friend turns and looks at me and says, actually, he would suffocate faster than either of those two things. And I'm like, shit, you're not supposed to make my life more complicated.
Well, see, it's a matter of immediate problems. Breathing is almost always number one. Like, it just is. It is. The scary dragon, it doesn't matter if I can't breathe. Like, really, I can't run anyway because I can't breathe. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Right? So you can breathe, then you worry about the ice and the hypothermia, and then like I can feel things or not feel things. Scaringly enough, not feeling things is worse. And then there's like in terms of it, like it's actually just a touch overkill. Like the dragon actually isn't necessary. They have enough problems as it is with 1 and 2.
Well,
so as your editor, I would say, is the dragon really necessary here? Right?
Well, the dragon is what got them encased in ice to begin with. So yes.
Sometimes. Like I haven't done it as much. Chris Rubio arts about meditation. I haven't done it so much since the pandemic's begun, but mostly because I've been unsettled where I'm at. I did the crazy thing and decided to go into freelancing for a year, just do that, and I've learned a ton. But now I'm trying to get my shit back together again, so I can actually
seriously.
Yeah.
Not just. Yes, I say that because I agree with you. I'm still trying to get my shit together. It's not working, but we're trying.
I'm in Windsor, Ontario. Jag is in Ottawa.
Yeah.
So
nobody comes here. Don't come here.
Okay.
It's boring. If you want government, cushy, boring job and bilingual, by all means, Ottawa is the place for you. If you want anything else, don't come here.
Okay.
Because pricing is expensive. There's no performing arts here, which is what I ultimately wanted to do. I wanted to be a professional dancer or actor or musician. None of these things you can achieve in Ottawa.
Well, that's cool. You're stand-up comedian from LA. How you doing, Chris? Having a good night, I hope. Right? I'm hoping you have a great night. Yes. Oh, there is plenty of arts in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. If I wanted to move to the States, sure.
I lived in Vancouver, and I was actually going to get into the film industry there, and then COVID happened.
Yeah,
right. And then since COVID happened, I was like, no. Part of me kind of wished I was still there, but another part of me is like, I don't think I was quite ready to stay in Vancouver at that point in time. So the next phase for me is going to be like rebuilding for a couple of years, not like terrible stuff, mostly just reinvesting. Actually, like getting some of the things I don't have, so I can do some more crazy. Because
more crazy things, yeah.
I am crazy. Like in the best way. People seem to like it. I don't understand that exactly, but
I think what it is that people are now so accustomed to chaos and trying to refocus everything that they know about life that chaos just kind of comes naturally.
Okay, but they seem to like what I'm doing. For me, I'm in Windsor, Ontario. Chris Rubio, Jag is in Ottawa. I don't want to live back in the States again yet. If I was to live in the United States, it would be either Las Vegas, Phoenix.
Vegas! That's where I'd go.
Vegas, Phoenix, or San Diego. I've lived in Phoenix. I enjoyed it. I've been to San Diego. It's awesome. Although it's not quite so. Yeah. And Vegas is basically like a more
Vegas.
Yes,
is amazing.
Vegas, yeah.
If I could ever say anything to anybody listening to this, either now or in the future, it is go to Vegas at least once in your life. Mm-hmm. Experience it. There is so much there, and you don't even have to gamble. Seriously.
Yeah. Oh, Texas.
I would never go to Texas.
Uh,
They're
actually,
too gun happy. No, thank you.
Actually, see, if you've been in Nevada and you've been to Arizona, it's about the same. The difference, Texas has more. No, I'm serious. I've been living in Arizona. I lived in Arizona. I'm going to tell you something. They're not that different there than there. I have buddies. It's interesting because Texas for me is kind of fun. I have a lot of friends there. I would definitely go visit. Right, I would definitely go visit Costa Rica. I would definitely consider visiting.
I don't know. I feel like I would need like a team of bodyguards or something.
No,
like I would not feel safe.
Here's the thing about like when I lived in the States, when I lived in Phoenix. So the weirdest thing as a Canadian getting used to the fact that you will see people openly carry in Phoenix. Like you'll just see it. Like it's a normal thing there. You'll see a guy just pull out his gun just randomly just because he's looking for something in his wallet. I've seen it. It is the first 2 or 3 days, it's odd. And then you get used to it. And then you don't think about it anymore. The only thing that always makes me antsy is when I get off the Phoenix airport and I see the security guy with a semi-automatic. That to me is a little overkill. But
yeah.
But that all said, right? It like the gun culture down there it's not what is advertised, but it is the most people down there that carry are actually really responsible. The problem there is the fact that they have so many guns down there, right? Yeah. So
interesting. I mean, we're all very critical of like the places that we live. Like I say, don't move to Ottawa, but I know like Nico Caritas is, from the United States and recently moved here to Canada. And she, had said to me one day, like, it is very different, like, because she's like, I'm so used to like the American lifestyle that when you come to Canada and you live here for a while, like people are nicer here, like people actually do stuff for each other, and then she's like, and then I had to go back to the States and I realized how much people were just jackasses back home. And she's like, I don't want to be here anymore. So by the time she finally moved up here, I think she is now much happier for multiple reasons, but
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So an ex-boyfriend of mine lived in not everybody. It depends on where you live.
Chris, to answer your question, it depends on the city. Depends on the city.
It does.
Toronto, hell no. Like hell no. A small town, it's not impossible. It really depends on where you go. But the bigger the cities, the more likely no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of perspective in a lot of cases.
It's also the fact here, like no, hell no. You go there.
Yeah,
Toronto actually feels more intense.
I love Toronto. And if you were asking like places to move to, I would move to Toronto because it has more performing arts.
If I make the decision to go back and try the film industry again, it will be Toronto. If I do make that decision, it will be Toronto because I am. Oh, absolutely. No, all the doors are locked in Toronto. That's not a question. Like I lived in like Whitby and Oshawa, and not even there. It's like
not even in Oshawa. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a question.
There's just places.
Chris, to answer your question, it varies. It depends on what you do it.
Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal are your options.
Actually, it depends. Books, Winnipeg, believe it or not.
Yes, I'm looking at more of like an acting sort of perspective.
If you're looking at acting comedians, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. Comedian, like for comedy shows, Montreal, big time. For Toronto's kind of in the middle, and Vancouver's the worst. If you're doing movies and television, Vancouver, Toronto, by far are the places to go. If you want to do theater, Stratford, Ontario, believe it or not, is
Stratford is I miss Stratford so much.
No, it's like it really depends on what you want to do. Here's the problem with Canada. Oh,
Oh, thank you. I don't know.
Sometimes.
There are some really good American comedians. If you like very sharp-witted comedians, watch Steve Hofstetter. He's one of my favorite comedians. Oh my god.
So I love dry wit. Like I just enjoy, I love dry wit, and apparently I'm good at self-deprecating humor. If you nasty
So
thing.
people have said yes.
Yeah. So
We can tell.
yeah, sometimes. And big
Sometimes he tries to like slide that in. It didn't quite work.
You know what? Again, I'm not trying to be.
Have you performed with him? That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He came to Ottawa on Mother's Day.
That's amazing.
And I went to see I only found out he was going to be in Ottawa like 3 days before it happened. So I was like, I had to check, and say, can I like go to this thing? Because I had like an obligation to sort of fulfill. So I had to check before I did this. And they were like, yeah, absolutely, go for it. And watched him live. And there's this great story. He was touring with Brett Druck. And Brett Druck was telling this amazing story about having to have merchandise to sell because he was like a newly minted like comedian. So he had won like a grant or something that Steve Hofstetter had set up for up and coming comedians. And Brett Druck was the one that had won it. Right. And so they were trying to figure out like merchandise. So they're like, we're going to give you like these wristbands or whatever. And he was telling this wicked story about how once a month, because of a condition that he has to get high effectively, to like get through, the pain and whatnot. Anyway, so his agent was saying like, what do you want to put on it? He's like, well, I don't know. I haven't figured out my tagline yet. I'll figure it out. Like, get back to me later. And so a week later, the agent comes back and says, you have to decide like today. And he's like, lol, K thanks, bye. And that became like the thing on the bracelet. And then just to make it better, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is a comedian. He's probably like conjured up this story out of his ass, like something that would just be wild and crazy and out there. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, there are these bracelets, right? And then Steve Hofstetter comes on and he's talking about like, my new book is out, Ginger Kid, and I've got t-shirts and I've got this and I've got that. And he's like, and for fuck's sake, please buy these goddamn bracelets. I need to get them out of my trunk. And I'm like, are you serious? This is an actual thing. So at the end of the show, I go to the washroom. It's at the Gladstone Theater. Their washrooms are tiny, so we're all waiting in line. And I'm like in the back of the line. I'm like, I'm just going to wait it out, right? Everybody else is now basically out of the theater. And I go forward, look at the three guys, the three comedians, and I look at Steve Hofstetter and I'm looking back and forth and I'm like, okay. And he's like, what are you looking for? I'm like, I want to buy your book, but I also kind of want this bracelet for reasons. And I don't know how much like the bracelet is or how much your book is. And he's like, well, my book is 20 and the bracelet is like 15. And I'm like, okay, I only have like $20 on me because I bought a second glass of wine during the show. So I was like, shit. And he's like, well, do you have like PayPal or something like that? And I'm like, well, I do, but I would have to do it like from home because I didn't have the app on my phone. And so he looks over at the Gladstone Theater person and says, like, is this person okay? I don't know why he thought that, like, the Gladstone person would know me or anything. That was the first time I had ever walked in there, by the way. And she's like, yeah, she's good for it. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I better not, like, piss these guys off, right? So I get home, immediately send the money. I actually sent extra because I was like, I don't want this to, like, come back later and haunt me, but, yeah. Like, I appreciated the fact that they trusted me to like go home and send the money for something that I just walked out on, but the K thanks bye is very much like an internet lingo thing. And I thought it was just the funniest thing. And also the fact that these bracelets actually exist. So I have it somewhere like next to me. I'm like, I am never taking it out of its package. It was great.
No, honestly, like when I started writing, like putting some comedy in my writing, I used as much real stuff as I could possibly find. Right,
Mhm.
right. Well, it's like it's honestly because like up here, I mean, it's more likely we're going to follow through. I'm not going to say we
Yeah.
always follow through because it's like anything else, and that's
And
fair.
you're not wrong.
I so like Chris, honestly, I totally understand why you don't trust anybody. Like it, like
Yeah.
I've been down there. So I'll give you a fun. I'll tell you a fun one. Like fun thing.
Yeah.
I had to watch somebody like a hawk. This is back when I was in a town called Nice, nice. I was living in a town called Snowflake, Arizona. That's why I know about Arizona because yeah, I know there's a legitimate town called Snowflake, Arizona. I was working at a gas station. That's a long story. That some of it I cannot tell on the air.
I have gas station stories. Don't worry.
Yeah. And so this guy comes out of like he literally comes out of jail. And like there's a penitentiary up there. It's like, hey, how you doing? And he's talking and all this stuff. And he's trying to get me talking so much that he does it with a full pop and cigarettes that he went and grabbed. He wouldn't have to pay for. He just got down and he was trying to jip me on like pop and like there is a very different mentality down there, and it's very. I did work in a gas station in Arizona. I've lived everywhere. Like I've lived absolutely everywhere. It's not kidding. I've lived in Detroit. I've lived in Phoenix. I've lived in like
God.
Snowflake.
You
I
lived in Detroit, you poor guy.
Yeah, suburbs are suburbs, no matter where you go. I didn't live in any of the terrible places in Detroit.
Good, because my God, I have stories I'll tell you later. Yeah.
My dad grew up in one of the worst areas in Detroit in the '60s, where tanks were coming in way back. Oh yeah, he was there. It was. I know, right? So I mean, like I've traveled. Like I've literally been a guy who's chasing my dreams. It's kind of why I am the way I am. I just say fuck it and just do it. And so it was just like no. The biggest difference between Canadians and Americans I have found, by and large, is this. Down there, you have to make sure your I's are crossed, your T's are dotted because T's are crossed because if you don't, people will take advantage of you down there. You have to learn how. Like that's where I learned how to be an asshole was in the United States of America. It's the truth.
Yeah,
it's honest to God truth.
That's the truth.
Yeah, but you have to be sometimes. Even up here, like as much as I try to be.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You can actually bust that anime later. You can actually bust the suing thing. You call their bluff. You make them do it 9 times out of 10.
And then they end up on Judge Judy, and we sit there and laugh.
That's right. That's the 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10, you're on Judge Judy, right? Like, yeah, it's just like it's like you call them on their shit, right? But it's the biggest difference. Like I had to learn. It's a great lesson as a freelancer, as a writer, to understand your worth and being able to fight for it. I learned that in the United States.
Absolutely.
I did not learn that here. Here, we're nice and kind. Like, no. Steal in your backbone.
Backstabbing. Yeah.
You must fight. Like steal in your backbone. You must stand up and you must fight. I do but like I said, yes, I lived in a town called Snowflake, Arizona. It's true. It does exist. You can look it up, right?
I will, because that's just funny to me.
Yeah, no, trust me, I didn't think so. No, they are. No, actually, truth be told, actually, the thing here's the downside of being a Canadian. You're undervalued.
Yes.
Criminally undervalued here. Like you're criminally undervalued. You trade off the fact that that by and large you have this is where the backbone's handy up here. Beating respect to your bosses sometimes here is kind of so. Big time. Damn right. We're underpaid. We're terribly underpaid. That's why we drink so much there, Chris.
I mean, not wrong.
Yeah, I know.
I say this as I've got a bunch of alcohol sitting right next to me.
That anime lady, that's not entirely true. But you have to be so good they can't ignore you, or you have to be so specialized that they cannot find somebody else. It's one of the two.
Dear mother, I always share my alcohol with you. What are you talking about?
It's the anime lady. I that's gonna be you in 20 years. You know that, right? Give the alcohol to me.
That's me today. Never mind. 2 years from now. Jesus. Someone says I'm having some wine. I'm like, send some to me.
So socialized healthcare, Chris, is I find that there's It's hit and miss. Here's the hit. We don't have the insane hospital bills you guys have down
True.
there. And we never will. Which is like a hell yeah. Like they never should be that way. Unfortunately, your medical industry bleeds into our industry because they're the same insurance companies.
Yep.
And because of the same insurance companies, we still get fucked in some of the same ways you do.
Yep.
Right? We don't advertise it that way, but it's the truth. Yep. So honestly, what we all need to do is we need to get together and go to all the insurance companies and put them in a little box, wind them up, and let them stay in there forever. We would all be happier. We would all be happier if that was the case. But we don't do that because I actually don't know why we don't do that. It would mean life would be so much better if we did. But again, that's, you want my opinion on the medical industries. If we got rid of the insurance countries, actually, where I want to go is Japan. Japan has the best medical in the world, bar none.
Japan would be great. I've never been.
Yeah, Japan would be like, and honestly, I would love to learn how to swear in Japanese. I would love to learn.
Yeah, no, you talked about this on a previous podcast, and I laughed.
Yeah.
Because you're 100% right. Every time you learn a new language, the best and easiest way to start learning is to learn the swear words first.
Absolutely. Everybody will teach you. Everybody will teach you. I can swear in 7 languages. I can speak 3. Well, at that point, you don't go to those assholes. You go to other assholes. Because just because those assholes don't want you, and by those assholes, I don't know who specifically you're referring to. But for the sake of your pocketbook, for the sake of your pocketbook and mine, let's not name names. Instead, let's like what I've learned is this. All right. It happens quite a bit. It happened to me too when I was in Vancouver and applying for writing jobs. I would see this piece of paper thing come up over and over and over again. But my experience has benefited me was because I've written stories, back I've published novels, the fact that I got like experience writing all kinds of various formats. I almost stayed in Vancouver because I got an offer to write video games for children right before I didn't hear back from them in time, or I would have stayed, because that was a dream. Like that was literally a dream. So
Hitmarker is the place to go to find gaming jobs.
Yeah.
Just FYI. Carry on.
Oh, that's cool. But I bring this up because like the thing is, what I often find is a lot of traditional places require a certain degree of certifications. What I have done, and I'm sure you've done this too, is I've lied and embellished some things sometimes too. Because honestly, my argument is if I can get to them talking to them, thank you. But, right? If I can get talking to them, I don't really need anything, right?
You love Bit. So
okay, Chris Rubio says Japan always reminds me that I love bidets. I hope bidets. I hope I said that right.
Bidets.
There you go. Accidentally funny sometimes. I hope that both of you have your one installed on your toilet. Joking aside, it's life changing. I'm totally down. No, I honestly, like if I were to go, like I would love to do Japan for like a year. Right. I would love it. I think it would be just such different. I actually contemplated, like I contemplated this year actually applying to teach English in China. I almost actually.
You should do it. I have a friend that actually does teach English well, I think I have one that's in China and one that's in Japan.
Yeah. Japan's hard to get into.
And one streamer that actually on Twitch is a very big streamer is a teacher in Japan. And I do watch his streams. And his streams are like him walking around Japan, chatting with some local people. And they're always fascinated to look at the chat going wild about things. It's great.
So I think I made Chris's day. I think I did.
I think you did.
Yes. The day. Word of the day.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. Yeah. Animated lady is right. 3. I'm a dumbass. I forgot entirely. Okay, yeah.
That's okay. See, and like I said, I love this. The cool thing about this format of Twitch as a format too, I love is it the audience so changes the conversation, and I
Oh,
don't
it
mind
does.
that one little bit. It's hilarious and it's awesome. I people have asked me why I chose Twitch, and I bring this up because it's the communities there are incredible. Like they all are, and the fact is, like I get involved like at all kinds of them. There's yours. I go up, I show up, and every once in a while we have time. You building your stuff. Minecraft seems to be the area of choice I run into. There's a lot of writers that do Minecraft. Apparently, it's really
Yeah.
really fun. But I just there's just so many the video game community. I wish the writing communities here and in the states were as enthusiastic as the gaming ones.
Yeah.
We would be a much healthier industry if that was the case. Because my God, I love how passionate video gamers are. They're really
Yeah.
really cool.
I would love. I have pitched multiple times to the programming leads for CanCon about having like a video gaming path or something that would cater, because so it was actually kind of funny. A couple of years back at CanCon, the one of the main guests was Steven Erickson.
Oh my God, yes.
Steven Erickson, right? And so I'm in a panel listening, taking notes on Biddy, which is my really old as fuck netbook, and I'm taking notes and whatnot. And Steve Erickson tells this story about how he once was hired to write for a video game. And I thought this was great. I'm like, writing novels maybe will lead me to writing for
Oh
video
yeah.
games or something awesome like that. That would kick ass, right? So I'm thinking, like, this is super motivating. This is Steven Erickson, right? And then he says, so they paid for my airfare. I went down to the studio. We had talked about like the intentions of the game, where the story was going, etc. But they kept changing their minds of what was going to happen. And there was a confliction between the developers and the publishers of what they wanted for the game, and it was too much change that he eventually turned down the offer and walked away. And as I'm typing, Sonia had videotaped the interview because it was with Brendan Crilly, and you just hear in the background me go, what? The moment he says the video game he was originally hired to write for was Destiny, which is a game I play a lot of currently.
Oh my God.
And I just about had a cow in the,
So one of my favorite comic writers actually writes for video games as well, and it's Anthony Johnson. He writes a comic series called Wasteland, and
yeah.
I love that series. That series is so criminally underrated. Like it's done now, but it's so good. And like I can totally believe he does video games, because video games are almost like it's a combination of like a module and television in one, because you're writing with motion in mind, which is the big difference between comics and animation. Is you like it's the motion, right? But at the same time, it's like you're creating so many cool interactions with players. It's so much fun to actually see how that goes. And Chris, like I said, I'm glad you stopped by, man. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, and I had no problem answering your questions. You definitely added to this conversation. And I'm gonna make you an invite anytime you want to come back and talk to me on the show. I'd happily have you. Right?
And yeah, you can have a follow, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're hosting us too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. It's so cool. Like like I said, that's why I love Twitch. Like it's such a cool environment, and you get this opportunity. And like I said, I don't know why, like what it is, but and again, for whatever reason, people like coming on my show, and I think that I feel that in this environment where it's that enthusiastic, it will catch on quicker here than it would anywhere else. And I might be wrong thinking that, but that's
No, actually, it's been proven. So I was going to write a book at one point in time about how to get into video gaming and how to get into esports. And what I wanted to do was appeal to sort of like the main audience on Twitch, which is like the 13-year-olds to about 25 who want to get into esports, who want to be professional players, who want to travel the world, and do all these things, but they don't know about contracts. They don't know about being poached by other teams. They don't know about budgeting or anything like that, or realizing that this is a business. And they also don't necessarily know that professional gaming is not the be all and end all when it comes to video gaming careers. And so I was going to design a book that would show the different things you could do in video gaming that you can still make a career even if your dreams of being a professional gamer doesn't pan out. And that way we would have less and less players getting screwed over by mainstream orgs who just take the tournament winnings and then fuck off with the money because they got these kids to sign contracts that they don't understand, and realizing there are some real pitfalls to the gaming industry. But to start that book, I was going to have a section talking about the rise of video gaming and why people are turning more and more away from television and going to places like YouTube and Twitch because there's less advertisements, there's more interaction. You get a lot of people on Twitch who are more introverted, that find their community of people through these platforms. And video gaming has become larger financially than the rest of the entertainment industry. And that is actual statistic you can go and look at on Newzoo. It's crazy.
1 second. Mm-hmm. Chris, it was a pleasure having you on the coming out. It was lovely. Like I said, you're invited to come anytime you like. I'd love to have you. Beyond that, dude, stay inspired. Have yourself a great night. And don't worry, Animated Lady. I will make sure she'll do it at some point. I will make sure of it.
My Patreon keeps me going for one thing, but don't worry. No, mom is actually a fantastic motivator. Like, she'll ask me, she doesn't necessarily sit there, you need to do your work and blah, 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 but she'll sit there and be like, so how are things going with this? Or you said you were having an issue with such and such a scene. Well, let's talk about it. Like, why is this a problem? And just by talking about that, sometimes that helps me, get through that, oh God, this is shit. There have been so many times during the writing of Agnes the Beast and whatnot where I've sat there and said, this is awful and I hate it and I want to throw it out the window. And then at the time, my writing coach was like, but why?
You're dumbass. That's fantastic. No, I can understand. I'm trying to finish. Like, I made this month about finishing 2 drafts. So I did accomplished one. One's done, which is that's ridiculous.
The one you sent me.
Yes, the one you're going to beat on me merciless for, but it's going to be good. I need that. I need that criticism because I want to get better, and that's
yeah. And I was 100% honest when I said, just reading the small section that you had sent me before of the same work, that I can see the improvement already. Yeah. Because you have clearly worked on it, and even at a faster pace than I have with my own writing. So, props to you.
Yeah. Well, it's scary because I'm going to be drawing it soon, which is just going to be like, that is wow. Going to be it. Yeah, have you seen my drawings? Have you seen
I have seen your drawing. I pay attention to everything, but I don't necessarily engage, and say something, So I only have so much time in a day.
No. I get it. But if you have seen, what you think? I'm kind of curious.
Well, so it's kind of unfortunate. I am not necessarily great when it comes to artwork. I am better with abstract. Animated Lady, my mom has been an artist the entire time that I've known her, obviously. And
you should, Animated Lady.
I look at art from a sort of a very similar analytical standpoint. But I also find that because of the amount of artwork that I am drawn to and what I enjoy, tends to be like the more advanced
Mhm.
works. You know, people who have been doing these for years and years and years, and I'll say like, this is really good, but this thing is off. When you're talking to a newer artist, it's harder to find where the improvement is until they've got more under their belt. And so for now, like, I can tell you, you do 100 million times better than me, but I can't really provide any other
So,
useful.
come on. Did you like the link? Did you see the link with the obnoxious boots? Like the totally obnoxious like boots. I posted that up there on my
I
book.
don't think I saw that one. I
Yeah.
saw
So
the. I want to say it was like a turtle thing or an animal
yeah,
of some description.
Ninja Turtles. Yeah,
Yeah,
last Ronin. Yeah, I did a last Ronin homage there.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it changed how I looked at storytelling because
Mhm,
I've always kind of wanted to do comics, and
mhm.
there's always this like I think we all have this little fear as an artist that oh my god, what if this sucks? Right? We all have
Yeah,
that little fear, and for me it was the art especially. But then I had this wonderful thought: so what if it sucks?
yeah.
Right? And then I haven't stopped since, and it's mind boggling to me that the people I have drawn with are drawing with me. It's just I never would have imagined that in a
Mhm.
million years. So it's like how? I've sold art. Like I have sold art this
Yeah.
year. That
Yeah,
is
so, my client right now, whose work I'm also editing, we were chatting last night. We hadn't chatted in quite some time, so this is someone I know very well. And he would go to, every Comic Con, every Pop Expo. I don't know if he ever made it to, I want to say it's Otaku Con,
okay.
the anime con.
Yeah.
Um, like, he's gone to a lot of different, conventions, and he's like, what I like about conventions is I'll go into the artist alley and I will commission 3 or 4 different people to draw the same piece, because each artist has a different take on my idea of a piece, and I learn something from each of them. And he's like, I have no problems paying people to do art for me because you get a different perspective. And in fact, the art that he's commissioned from people, I absolutely love them. They're phenomenal. And I would just never get to that level if I sat down to draw. Like,
No,
writing is my thing. Singing,
no.
acting,
Like,
drawing, no.
you've chosen your skill set. One like
Yeah,
I had to give my dad shit for this. You want something to me, I don't have time. It's like that's not exactly true. You just
it's
chose
not an excuse. Yeah.
yeah, right. You've chosen your priorities,
Yes.
and that I totally get. Tell me you don't have time. It's like no, that you're bullshitting me on. But you have priorities. I can respect that because that
Yeah.
what the first one says. I'm trying to duck this. The second one
Yeah.
says
The first one says, I don't give a shit about,
yeah.
X, Y, or Z, because if you did, then you would do it.
Yes. The second one says it's not like you're just being honest about what you want. I can't
Yeah,
argue with you on that one, like at all.
exactly.
Right? It's the first one that bothers me. And so you've made the decision that video games, writing, and like what you do, those are the things that matter to you the most. And that I can respect that, right?
Mm.
And you have your own goals as a novelist, and I get the feeling you're going to design your own games at some point if you haven't
Oh,
started
yeah.
right away. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's always been something I've had in mind. Actually, when I was a kid, one of the books that I will never forget reading was Invitation to the Game by Monica Hughes. And that book was one of the first books I had ever read that discussed the idea of, like, a virtual reality sort of scenario. So you grow up, you go to your high school or whatever, and then they score you in different areas, and then they give you like assignments of like what your jobs are, but then there are a select few that get invited to the game, and then the rest of the book sort of takes place inside like a virtual reality space. And I remember as a kid saying that that is going to be a thing, and I remember thinking to myself, I want to be involved in that somehow. Like, I know that virtual reality is going to evolve. And not I guess a couple of years later, I started to do some like basic programming. And when I say basic, I mean like Commodore basic, go to line 12, and then I did some VRML, and I was starting to learn C++ and Java. I did some Pascal, you know and then because of high school and some of the experiences, I ended up dropping programming, but it's always been in the back of my mind of something that I wanted to do. So I realized maybe programming isn't the way I would get involved in, the gaming space in some way, but I would find something else, and it's just taken me this long to sort of get there. you
Yeah.
know
No, and for me, it'll probably be like I said. I got an Alice in Wonderland style board game in my head that I'm going to eventually build and release someday.
Yeah,
Probably when I gotta tell you some things about Alice when we get off the air because
sure.
I think you'll appreciate. Like I said, I've had some good news. I'm going to say it is about Alice Zero. It was an actually so. Yeah,
Mm.
that's it. Like it was unexpected about 2 weeks ago, and it was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, right? But I mean, like it's unfortunate. That's how I look at it. It's like I'm a very fortunate guy, and I don't take that for granted. But I always
Yeah.
think about but I want to do like a game type theory, and I've been talking with Kenzie. Like she came on Monday to illustrate. We talked a little after. It's like this is where I kind of want to see it going, and so I
Mhm.
give her an idea, kind of at least what the top down design is. I think like a gamer. So when I design my books, I actually think of them kind of like a game. I
Yeah.
want to interact with you like here. This is the interactive experience I want to create here. This is the experience I want to create here.
Yeah.
Right. What I've had to learn what I've had to learn is emotional resonance.
Yes. 100%. That
Yes.
is that is true, because there were so many moments reading through your stuff that I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I get the intention behind, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, but you gotta give us a reason to give a shit.
Yes.
Like, and that's really what it boils down to. If your readers don't give a shit and they're like, passed out, you're done. Like, that's it. They're gonna toss the book out the window.
Tap
You
out.
know.
It's a tap out, right?
Yeah.
And but I also know this too. I needed to write what I wrote to
Yeah.
get to what I'm now, and that's just the way it is.
Exactly. No, and that's just it. Like, you can, so we're gonna come full circle for a second here. So at the beginning we were talking about Stephanie Meyer, and on Sonia's channel Silver Stag, we were talking about, or we were doing a review of the movie The Host by Stephanie Meyer, not the horror movie, whatever. And I was like, I remember this. You can actually watch the YouTube video at a later point in time, where I had said, okay, for Twilight, you weren't a published author. This was never intended to be published. This was something you wrote for yourself originally. And then your sister pushed you into, like, this is actually a good idea. You should get this published. It became big. You got signed by Little Brown. Awesome. So when The Host came out, I had heard from a lot of people that the book for The Host was amazing, and
Mhm.
then they released a movie for it. Now, I had not, even to this day, I have not read the book. I watched the movie, and I was like, okay, Stephanie Meyer, for what you have done, you get a free pass for the Twilight series because it was your first, and you are going to grow as a writer for every work you produce after that. Here is your second book, and what the fuck did you do? Because the movie was such garbage that we just ripped on it so hard, except for the one panelist who was like, I actually liked it and thought they did really well translating the book to movie. And I'm like, it was garbage. Like, I hated it. I yelled so much about that. But you're supposed to grow as a writer.
you the head heart thing is the challenge.
Yeah.
Because when you're younger than me, but I mean, you might be wiser than me, but you are younger than I am. So
I don't know. I think we're close to the same.
I'm 39.
Yeah, I can't remember if I'm 38 or 39. Mom, what am I? Am I 38 or 39? Yeah, I
How old
know.
am I? How old am I, and why am I so smart and stuff? There you go. Okay, I am
Okay.
older than you.
Barely.
There.
Barely.
Huge gap. Giant gap. I mean, no. She just looks at me. She's just
one year does not make you better.
Giant.
You cannot.
Right. Hey, let's not run the joke to the ground. I don't make me do it. Don't make me run it to the ground. But
you know my answer to this.
No, you can't. No, I know your answers, but you can't do this to. Yes. Oh, totally. Actually, that's not true. You're probably 39 yourself. You just stopped aging at like 39, animated lady. I'm actually gonna probably be older than you after this year because I got no problem getting older.
Really?
It's a lame ass joke, but my grandmother has 29. Okay, there you go. Totally, I believe you. And here's and it's for my own good. I'm not I've learned something a long time ago that a wise man will just give certain things. Yeah. Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah. My grandmother did too. So now I joke she's 39 and 15 and 16, 17 18, and just keep going with that. It's totally fun.
Yeah.
It's totally fun. But no, but that head heart connection takes a long time, and it honestly takes a lot of. As a writer, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, and if you're not willing to be vulnerable, you can't do it. Like you just can't. And that's why, like, I look at like old science fiction books, and I love some of them. Some of them are fantastic; they still hold up. But as I've gotten older, I've fallen more in love with like the simpler stuff, like Zelazny and Moorcock and Spider Robinson, and like I love those guys. Spider, I got a little extra because I interviewed him. That was so freaking cool. Yeah. But also just because there's a lot of emotional resonance in their works, all of them. Zelazny was probably the genius of the three of them, if I'm going to be very honest with myself.
Yeah.
But Moorcock has these really cool concepts, and in terms of the conceptual world building, I don't think there's anyone better than Moorcock. And as far as Robinson, Gravity, like his characters feel so real, and I can see why he was so popular. Eon by Greg Bear is fine. Like it's fine, but Bear is kind of on that borderline because he tries to be a lot more hard science fiction, and hard science fiction especially at that time was less character driven than more concept driven, and that's not a bad thing. But then again, I did read David Brin, and sometimes hard science fiction can be too much of a less character, more concept. That's where I found Brin was very hit and miss for me as a writer. Just like that for that reason. Like I love the idea of a black hole at the center of the Earth, but I need a character I care about. She's laughing at David Brin.
Yes. Well, no, she's like, ooh, it's a mom thing. Just trust me. So I think you were interviewing Geralt yesterday. And you had mentioned for the second time that I've heard on your podcast, Jacqueline Carey. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have read the Kushal series.
Yes.
And I absolutely love her stories, but I find that they also give me a massive fucking headache. Now, this is for two reasons. One, because she weaves that political sort of intrigue so well in the novels that sometimes, like, you know, Kushal is sitting there going, oh, well, if this is happening, then this, and that must mean this, and this, and this, and she's making all kinds of assumptions about things and then acts on them, you know? And it's so like one, I'm not really big into politics, so it's hard just from that standpoint, but it's also uh literally hard. Like she uses those $10 words everywhere in her novels, and it's very complicated. And so I have to agree with you that I've been drawn more and more to simpler stories. Like I want to be taken on the ride, but I don't want to be looking at a dictionary every second word to try and figure it out. So while I absolutely love the series, I also find it's extremely challenging. And then I'm drawn to people like Kelly Armstrong's YA series.
No,
The
Karen's was right.
YA series, not so
No,
much
no,
like Bitten, I did not really get into. You would think I would. Werewolf Story, she's got a lot of supernatural,
she's a
like
hoot
her
to talk
adult
to.
series.
She's a hoot to
But
talk to. Like she's a
yeah,
gamer mom. She's totally a gamer mom. It's awesome.
really? Oh my
Borderlands is
god.
her. She's Borderlands is her game. Serious to God, honest to God. It's like when I talked to her, I interviewed her for the podcast. It was like she's probably like my biggest well-known name. I was in Vancouver at Creative Ink, and she was the guest of honor. So I asked her at the end of the show if she'd be cool with just having a little. So when I was doing like 40-minute conversations still. God, look at the time and how quick like that. I don't know if I can go back to that small gap anymore because I have such a big mouth now. But 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 the thing about that was no, she was a pleasure to interview, and she's no, I get why she's so successful. Like I've had like this um I've had the pleasure of talking to a lot of big traditional authors, and they really understand. And the thing is, they have a lot of things in common. But
Yes.
one of the things I like, the reason why I like Carrie's work in particular, I really really like it, is she gets her meta. Like
Yeah.
fantasy authors have a the challenge they have is they have a meta story on top of the story they're trying to tell, and the
Oh,
meta,
this is my problem as a
right,
fantasy writer.
right. But the meta story, you gotta be very careful with it because the meta can swallow your story if it's done incorrectly,
Yeah.
and you don't want that. You want like I love like Brandon Sanderson's my favorite in terms of the meta world building because he's
Oh yeah.
so good at it. He's phenomenal at it.
100%.
Yeah, but he's very smart that he uses almost like a scientific method. He comes up with a system that governs the world and everything he builds around. He uses actually a very gaming top-down design when he designs his world, which I think is really, really ingenious. That's Brandon Sanderson's true genius is that he's a great writer. Don't get me wrong, but his genius is he understands how to interact with people in terms of how he tells his stories, and that is Sanderson's true genius.
Yeah.
But when you look at Jacqueline Carey, one of the things she was subverting an expectation with Phaedra. She was a courtesan, and a lot of times when you read these stories about people that end up in that kind of life, they're not always necessarily the brightest. She was smart, intelligent, like she was a dream.
Yeah.
He wanted to make her like literally a fantasy, a walking fantasy, because she was for
Yeah.
everybody,
And
right?
it's fascinating.
Yeah, no, and she does. But that's the thing. Like that's why that was why some of the word choices were the word choices they were though too.
Yes.
Because it was you want it because if she had gone too simple, she would have been just another courtesan. But because
Exactly.
she was sophisticated, because
Yes.
word choices were what they were, it added a layer of gravity to Fedra. It gave a sense of how that she was intelligent and smart. I can't remember who the bad guy was for the first two books. I can't remember her name. I can't remember her name.
Oh god, I forgot her name.
Yeah,
And it's funny because you can see it so
it's
clearly
like
because of what
Melisandre or
happened.
something like that. Like
Yes.
it's something like that. It made her smarter. It
Yes.
made her more dangerous because Fedra was that astute, that sharp, she understood who she was, she understood her role, she understood her value, she understood how people around her interacted because of how she was trained. And that was so fascinating that she met someone that could completely subvert her expectations.
Yes.
So dangerous. But none of that works. None of that without those word choices.
Oh,
Right?
exactly. And
Yeah.
I don't blame her for, like, I think it was extremely well done. Me as a reader, not being as sophisticated at the time that I read this series,
Yeah.
is what I was battling. I was trying to expand my horizons by reading something that was harder for me to digest,
Yeah.
and so it was an incredibly good experience. And I kind of believe the same thing that Sonia does, where I do believe that you should challenge, like in grade school and stuff, that you should challenge your students to read things that are challenging and harder for them, so that they learn the language better and learn concepts better.
I actually so Isaac Asimov said this and a long time ago is that intelligence was the biggest challenge in author basis. How smart do you want to make your book?
Yeah.
Because you get the challenges, you want to make it clear enough that anybody can get it, but you want to also make it complex enough that people can engage in it.
Yes.
And that's the real challenge, right? You don't want it so complex. I'm a Robert Jordan fan. I love Robert Jordan, but here's the thing. Even I got to admit, there's a little bit of bloat in that series, right? I think less than people. I will argue less than people realize, but even I have to acknowledge that he went so far into his meta. Sometimes it was like, I really didn't need the falling of the leaves here. I really didn't. I really, really, really didn't.
Yup.
Right? Can't argue again. You can't argue success. So I mean, I
Yeah.
do. By and large, I love Robert Jordan. It's always going to be my favorite fantasy series of all time because it was also my first one. But that all said, right? I mean, his metas were incredibly complicated and diverse, and like every country, every city felt so different, and he did such a marvelous job. But he was so meticulous sometimes that the world sometimes swallowed the story he was trying to tell.
Yeah.
That's the challenge fantasy authors have, is because
Agreed.
you want. Okay, so Stephen King
Stephen King is 50-50.
Actually, okay, so here's my feeling on Stephen King. The Dark Tower is my other favorite series.
I'm not surprised. I've still yet to read it, and I need to. My God,
it made me cry. Like I legitimately, I cried at the end of it. Oh my God, it's heartbreakingly beautiful. It really,
Excellent.
really, really is.
No spoiling.
I'm not spoiling a thing, but
Good.
I will. But the thing is, okay, so the first, I don't do the remakes. Do the originals. Yeah, his from a polish standpoint, the new ones are better.
Sure.
But the old ones
aren't they always?
The voice is so much better, and I love the fact that the world was slowly introduced in the old one, because you got a sense of who Roland was at the very beginning of the story, and you were fascinated because he wasn't quite real. Like he was like Clint Eastwood, and you're like, what, Clint Eastwood was following a wizard in this weird world, and it was fun. And then he breaks your heart at the end, in the middle of the first book. He just breaks your heart, and you get to the end, and you're like, what did I just read? And then you want to read the second one. And you read the second one, and the second one is just wow. And then you get 3 incredible characters introduced in the second book that are they're all interesting. They're all fascinating and different. And then in the third book, you get your heart restored from what the heartbreak was in the book 1. And none of this is talking about the tower's great danger, the calamity going on in this world, and what Roland's actually trying to do. None of that. And then the best book in the series is the 4th one, Wizard and Glass. It's the story of Roland's first love, and it is beautiful. It is such a beautiful, beautiful story. And it is, in my opinion,
You have a fan.
In my opinion, it is the best thing Stephen King has ever written.
Wow. Over something like Misery, which is
Misery is nowhere near as good. Not even close.
Well, interesting, because I've actually read Misery. That was an interesting.
It's how to put this. King needed to write Misery to get to the Wizard and Glass, but Wizard and Glass is so much better. It's beautiful. It is incredibly beautiful. And then 5, 6, and 7, the last 3 in the series, are very much more like a classic fantasy. There's a lot more of a meta story going on, and a lot of his other characters become more involved from other books. And and he's a huge Harry Potter fan in those books, and you definitely can see it.
And that shows?
Oh,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
it does in a very neat way. But
Hmm.
so 5 and 6 are okay. 7 will break your heart. 7, it will so break your heart. And when it comes, it's so fast, it's so brutal, but so good. Stephen King, when at his absolute best, is one of the she completely, and later completely agrees with me.
I see this, yes.
Yeah, is at his absolute best is probably the best storyteller, like honestly, of like our time, easily. At his best, he is untouchable.
I'm
At
not
his but at his worst, see, some people love The Stand. I hate The Stand. I hate it.
yeah, so
I love the first 100 pages, but after that, I hate it. I hate it so
that's
much.
funny. So Stephen King has always been a bit of a mixed bag for me. I've always been drawn more to, like, you know, his ghost stories and that kind of thing. I didn't really like The Green Mile. I will never read it. It's just not going to happen. Period. Like,
It's fun. It's
it's
interesting.
it's a 50-50. I'll never read Pet Cemetery. I love pets too much. You know, like, but then like Misery I read and it was good. It wasn't like the greatest thing I've ever read, certainly, but I liked the story. It was kind of weird because, again, as a role player, as a gamer, you know, there are a lot of times where you sit there and go, but why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you try this other thing? Or why not just, you know, da da da. And so, you know, sometimes it's like the solution that the reader thinks about is like, but that makes no sense because X, Y, and Z, you know, and so it was an interesting sort of novel. And I think my favorite of the stuff that I've read of his will always be Bag of Bones.
That's good.
That one stuck out to me.
That
And it also became like a television movie that I think Mom and I both watched, and that was an experience.
I'm gonna make a couple of suggestions for you.
Okay.
His other real strength is his novella styles. Like his novella length stories are all good. None of them suck. That's actually, and honestly, that's probably him at his consistent best is the novella form. So the two I'm going to recommend are called The Little Sisters of Illyria. That was my first taste of the Dark Tower. It's called The Little Sisters of Illyria. You can find it in the collection Hearts of Atlantis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay. She likes that one. She'll like the second one too. Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption. It's good. It's actually good. Right? Don't ignore the movie. Just read the freaking short story. Just read the short story.
Because I was like, I saw that. I know so many people loved that movie. I'm
not hated it.
I'm not
telling you to watch the movie. Did I say watch the movie? No, I'm telling you, read his shorts. All his shorts are good. Those are my two favorites. Now, that all said, The Mist is really fun. I like The Mist. It's a fun little short story. It's great. I don't mind From a Buick Gate. No.
Yeah.
I don't mind that one. I don't mind that one. Duma Key, from a novel standpoint, is it's a fun little one and done. It's one of the cleanest books I've ever read in terms of prose, right?
That's good.
But he deserves his reputation. I don't.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like he completely has earned it. My secret soft spot though, like if you just want a one and done, get in, get out. I love Eyes of the Dragon. Oh my god, is that book good?
I don't actually know that one.
Yeah, I love that book. That book is his YA. It's so good. I think the anime
was that under a pen name?
No.
Because I know I have a Stephen King book that is under his pen name, and
The Running Man is probably his most famous one of the Bachman books. Because it was also a movie by Schwarzenegger's movie. But I think Animated Lady approves my choices.
I think she does, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because like King to me is when he's on, there's literally nobody better. Like there's no one better than him. But when he's off, Dreamcatcher.
He is way off. Yeah.
Dreamcatcher's terror. Yeah, Dreamcatcher's
well,
terror.
Dreamcatcher was
He
okay.
was also under a lot of pain meds when he wrote that.
Yeah,
Right?
I was just gonna say Dreamcatcher. Again, it made a lot of sense to me. I actually like Dreamcatcher.
Yeah.
Again, not the greatest thing on the planet, but I enjoyed that. But no, one of the ironically, one of the most interesting stories is his story. If
Yeah.
you read On Writing, Stephen King's On
Oh, yeah.
Writing,
It's great. It's so
that
great.
so for those of you that haven't read that, the first half of On Writing is him talking about his childhood and how he got into writing, and it is the most traumatic story I have ever read. And I'm like, it makes sense to me why you write horror, because of the stuff you went through as a kid. And it's not like, it's not like he went through some crazy wartime scenario or anything like that, but he still went through some really difficult things for a kid to go through that would just warp your mind. And I'm just like, I don't blame you for anything, for what you write, because yeah. It's all from that first half.
Yo, no, no, he's great. Like, honestly, like, he's not my all-time favorite writer, but
No,
he's the
but
man.
he is.
I'm not even like that. There's not an argument with me. Like, he's the man. He's earned it, and I'm not even
Yeah.
gonna argue. Right. Right. Like, my favorite people right now I'm reading. I love Fonda Lee. I really, really love stuff.
Fonda Lee is great. I read her tweets and stuff all the time. I should sit down and read her work.
I introduced you to Batman Ninja Turtles.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my.
I did.
That sounds.
She's a huge Ninja Turtle fan too. I think. All right, but she's like, wait. I did this. I responded to her. It's like, what are you reading right now? I said, she's like, comic wise. She asked that question when it's like Batman Ninja Turtles. She goes back to me. Wait, there's a Batman Ninja Turtles. I sent her a link to the graphic, and I was like, you'll thank me for it. It's great.
That's funny.
No, it's like, no. I actually, my secret hope for her is she gets to write the book sometime, because she'd be great at it. Like, I know she'd kill it. And so I like her. I'm a big fan of her. I'm a big fan. Right now I'm reading like Serrano's Chosen Ones. And so unfortunately P&B Books went out of business here. And because of
everything.
Government.
We're not going to get into that.
No, we're not. But
I'm going to pass on that.
No. But I was there. I picked up a whole bunch of books. So I'm reading Green Rider by Kristen Britton, and that is actually really fun. I haven't read a fantasy like that in so long.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, like, I miss this. Like, this is where fantasy can be so much just fun. So, going back to what we talked about before we did the Stephen King thing, tell your story first. Build your meta around your story.
Yeah,
that's what I would tell you to do. That's how I would get around. It's like, this is how by the way, I asked myself these three wonderful questions, and you might have noticed the difference in my writing when I did this. What's the story I'm trying to tell?
Yep.
What's the best way to tell that story?
Mm-hmm.
And what isn't needed?
Yeah, exactly. Because good storytelling often comes in what you don't need to include. I find that the subtle, smaller places are the best moments that you need to have, that you really have to convey. And that's why, some of those side quests in video games are more interesting than the main line, because you may think that everything is so epic and cool and doing, like, we're going to save the world once again, whatever it happens to be, right? But then it's the smaller moments where you get to really learn about the characters and who they are,
For me, the game that does that the best for me are any of the Tales games.
Oh, really?
I love
interesting
because I love the skits, because it tells you so much about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Tales of Xillia 2 made me cry. The true ending made me cry, because by the time you get there, you get all these relationships with these characters, and the main character and a girl in another universe that could be his daughter. You watch that relationship form and bond, and you see the big moment where it's taken away, and then the moment where it comes back but which is I'm not going to spoil the ending game because it is so good. It's worth playing it just to see it.
Yeah.
And that ending was like, and this is a sequel. It's not even the first one in the series. It's a sequel.
Yeah.
There's more emotional depth in the second one than there was in the first. And the first one was really good too.
Mm-hmm.
First time I've ever seen a main character get crippled right off the bat in the game. And it was just like, wow. It's just like, it was just one of those, oh, the game is, so the Tales of Xillia is what I call it. It's Tales of Xillia. It's my personal favorite of the series, but they're all good. Like, all the Tales games do a really good job in these little moments of conveying characters. So when you get to the point of the actions of the game, it's actually Xillia spelled like this.
Sorry. Oh, I found it. I knew I spelled it wrong the moment I typed it out. Yeah. I'm like, I know exactly what this is. Yeah. I haven't played these, but I know so many people.
So I'm going to say this, in the first game, the main character Jude is busted. They gave him an ability to let him get behind the enemy almost at will. It is gross how ridiculous that ability is. It's like, wow, is this busted? But the game's so fun to play. Everything was worth doing. And all the characters are incredibly well thought out. And then the second one features a brand new character going back to these characters in Tales of Xillia, right? Silent protagonist, but oh my gosh, you go through his story and this journey, and it's like, my God, they actually made a sequel. Although the caveat, the crisis is a bit, I wouldn't have used that crisis, but the idea of like that whole story coming together, it was just like, the characters sold me. Like, the characters just sold it. Like, you know what, I'm in. I don't really care about how convoluted this is. But yeah, the Tales games do it for me. And you do it just getting into battles. You get enough victories. You get to see your characters interact in fun and different and wonderful ways. You're laughing, but you also get that bond with those characters. So when things happen to them, you're like, oh my God, no. Or, oh my God, yes. And you feel it, right? And you feel it. And it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. Like I said, I love the side quest stuff in 13, but to say that game has emotional depth, I would be lying to you if I said that. It doesn't have that much emotional depth to it.
Yeah.
The Tales games do.
Yeah.
All of them. Even the bad ones. The bad ones are still good. Like, in terms of character story. Zestria and Graces, although I do like Graces more than Zestria, the combat system in both of them are far more flawed in there than they are in Berseria or Xillia, right? So, but great games, so much fun, great characters, and ultimately the heart of it is great characters. And,
exactly.
Yeah. So, and the world reflects their meta narrative. I'll tell you my all-time favorite skit, though, and it's from Tales. Sorry.
Before you do that, can I run off for just a second?
Sure, run off.
Excellent. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
How do I do this?
So while Jag's doing that, it's Poetry Month. I have a book called Alice Zero. It's out now. I'm going to send a link to it. It's going to be on both my Facebook and here. If you guys want to check it out, it's Alice in Wonderland meets Greek mythology. Alice is Pandora, and I'm proud of it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm just going to put it out there for you guys. Just definitely check her out real quick. You can it's right there. You can just if you guys want to check it out. If you don't, that's cool too. I gotta thank everybody for coming out tonight. This was a great chat and a lot of fun. Animated Lady, it was nice to actually have a good conversation with you. I do these interviews all the time for people the first time here. I'm usually talking to authors and other creatives. My guests have included some decent names. I've had Charles Brandt, who's a sci-fi author based out of Winnipeg. I've had some bigger names like Hank Phillip Orion. I just do these conversations all the time, and I love them. This is what I am. This is what I do. I've even won an award for this. This is an Aurora Award-winning podcast. So, but but like I say, it's one of those things where I'm very proud of what I do, and I'm hoping you guys appreciate the show, and thank you guys very very much for everything you've done here. So it's great. Whenever Jag comes back, wherever she's going and wherever she's off to right now, that'll be cool. Um, but I just figured I'd do that really quick. If anyone has any wonderful questions you want to ask me, I'm here while Jag is off to Mars or wherever she's doing right now. And so, but anyway, beyond. Yeah, I know. It's the room. It's the room. Actually, I'll try something here. I'll try something real quick here. We'll see if this works. See, the only problem with that, I think the light goes. The light's gone. Yeah, it's those lights. Problem is, I got like this kind of like this basement dweller deal when I look at the room like this, and I'm not really like there.
Isn't that always the way though?
What?
Isn't that always the way though? You just always look like a basement dweller.
I don't want to be the basement dweller.
But what?
One of my guests, I'm not gonna name names. One of my guests, like he turned the room darker as time went on. I'm like, dude, I get it. You're coming off work and you're chilling, and I get that you want to be kind of in the dark, but people are here to see you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can't so I turn that light on. I get these two dots sometimes in my face, and that's cool. I mean, I look like a cyborg half the time. Fine, that's great. I can do that. But at the same time, I don't want to be. So animated lady, like what's happening with me is I am either, depending on how you look at it, 4 to 6 weeks away from being out of this house. So I'm gonna have a brand new lighting, brand new space in like 4 weeks. So I'm not gonna get any lighting. I'm not gonna get any lighting until tomorrow. I'm gonna be. There's a job I'm waiting for. I hope, like I told her off the air, Jag off the air. If I get it, like my clock's down. Like I'm basically at that point. I'm after a couple of weeks, and once everything's set up, I'm getting out of this place because. Yeah, we won't talk.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah,
you've alluded to stuff on other podcasts before.
Yeah, and you're like, I understand your pain. Like again,
yes.
I will say this here, and I won't understate this. I've been very grateful for the time and the opportunities I've been given in this time. But at this point, I want more, and that's what it comes down to.
Yes.
And I'm going to get it one way or the other.
Yeah.
If I can't get it here, I will get it elsewhere. Oh, thank you, animated lady. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Josh. Oh, I was just going to say, Josh previously stated that he wants to travel the world, and he's just going to take some time off and just go. And I'm like, I want to be you and travel the world, and that's something I always wanted to. Yeah. So well, go. Good luck. You're going to have fun.
But the next 2 years for me.
See.
Listen.
I am my mother's daughter.
So how much do you weigh, animated later? I'm asking this in the most non-offensive way as possible because I don't want to get beaten to death.
It's okay. She's just going to laugh at you.
Yes, she probably is going to laugh at me. It's all good.
She is. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
You weigh less than I do? Mom, eat more. She can't, but it's fun.
I get the feeling you both give each other the same advice. I can actually hear it in my head. Yeah. I can hear it in my head.
Oh yeah, I'm told frequently that I need to eat more. Trust me.
I know. I have a grandmother. She does the same thing to me all the time.
Yeah, my grandmother all the time. She's like, "Child, have you eaten yet?" No, Nanny, I'm coming. Hold on.
Yeah. So I was saying, like, I'm just saying here, it's like I've been grateful, I'm grateful that, I had this opportunity. My dad gave me this opportunity. I got to learn an awful lot as a freelancer in this last year. I think. Yeah. I think honestly, if I didn't have to pay editors and artists to do my books, I probably wouldn't be going back to work. To be perfectly honest with you.
I agree with you.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm also like, I need to reinvest in myself. And I think we all have that moment, and like those moments in life where you just realize, okay, you know what? I'm going to be going back and forth for a little while. I get that feeling that's just going to be my thing. I'm almost an affiliate on Twitch, and I know that once that happens, and things will move in that direction, which is great. But I'm not going to get there overnight. It's going to be a growing process. I promise I will go to Japan. It's either going to be Japan or Australia first. I promise.
And when you go to Japan, I will make one request of you that I always make of people when they go to Japan, and bring me back something of Ayumi Hamasaki. She is a very, like, she is like the Britney Spears in J-pop. You know, like you can find her everywhere.
I will. No,
I just want a keychain. It doesn't matter. It can be small. I don't care.
so for me it's the hold on. My favorite person for the I'm just looking for because I want to make sure I get the name right. Uh, Dang it, doesn't have the name there. But she basically she sings the Persona 5 like Rivers in the Desert. I love her voice.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's Ryu Mizuki, I think, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Uh,
No, Rivers in the Desert has been my mantra for the last 2 years. It's been in my head nonstop. It's just go and build stuff, and that's what I've been doing for the last few years.
okay, I'll continue to look this up after. But yeah, no, I know because I listen to a lot of all kinds of music actually. So yeah, you can hit me with a genre, and I'll be like, okay.
East like Indian metal is hilarious. I love Arabic rock and roll, and
I haven't listened to Arabic rock and roll, but Indian metal, I think Sonia sent me a
yes.
song that she absolutely fell in love with, and I'm like, this isn't quite my style, but it's also
So cool.
weirdly cool.
So I'm in this cab. Going to work because I'm late. I'm taking the cab to work, and all of a sudden it just turns on a very. It's almost like on a very old school style, the 1930s musical movies, like the music in the movies. It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like that with the Arabic voice. I'm like, so what's it about? And he tells me it's about guys, and we start bopping the Arabic music on the way all the way up there because university again. You're willing to share. You're willing to get yourself involved with people. You learn all kinds of cool things. I think I made a
Oh
friend.
yeah.
I made a friend that day because he's like, "Oh my god, no! Like most people like you don't like this music. Yeah, it's your music. It's your car. I might as well just bop to it. It's yours."
Yeah.
But it's about and it's about a guy talking about a girl he loves. It's like yeah, some things are truly universal. It never.
No, and you're 100% right. I had a friend in grade 9 who her whole family was Indian, and I would go to her place so we could do like homework or studying or whatever it happened to be. And her dad would always rent like Indian movies, like the Indian drama type of movies that are like super in depth. And I wouldn't give a shit about my history homework at the time. You know, I would turn and look at the TV and go, okay, what just happened there? Like, why were they just yelling and now they're like hugging each other? Like, what? This makes no sense, right? You know, because you can tell a lot by action. And she would spend half the time explaining the plot line of the movie. She's like, "Oh, my dad has watched this for like the 100th time. Like, this is what's happening. This is what's going to happen." And I'd always stop what I was doing to watch these Indian movies. So from an early age, I was already accustomed to listening to a multitude of different music through friends that I had, but also through dance. So I grew up a dancer, and I tried a bunch of different styles, and every style of dance has its own music to listen to. So when people are like, "Well, what's your favorite song or what's your favorite artist?" I'm like, "Give me a genre. I can't just give you one. Like there's too much."
There's lots there's good music everywhere, and
Yeah.
like we're not all that different. Like when we get all right down to it, we all are going out there. We're kind of figuring out who we are in the world. We are making beautiful
100%.
things.
Mhm.
Almost all of us are making beautiful things, and we are all trying to figure out the meaning of it all. And
Yep.
that's humanity in a nutshell. You can look at people like that, and it doesn't matter who they are. You will break barriers. I think I've said
Yeah.
this on this show many times. I am grateful I did this podcast because I've met so many people and I've
Yeah.
learned so much, right? And there's so much more to do and see. and
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna have time for it all. But again, it's okay. I love the fact that it's bigger than anything I can possibly do, because it's not about getting to the end. It's just about doing the journey. So
Exactly. Exactly. That's really what it boils down to. Like from traveling to like a few different places, meeting people from all over the world, being self-employed teaches you a lot of things. But I've learned from conventions that, I used to look at writers like they were some kind of, magical unicorn, or like people on like this pedestal, that they publish books and like everybody knows who they are and da 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 da. And then I started, volunteering for CanCon many years ago, and I started to realize, what, authors are human. They've got interests, they've got, things going on. I actually met Charles DeLint well before I knew who he was. So
nice,
when I was young, my mom decided to sign up for a workshop that Charles DeLint put on at the Ottawa Public Library. And I will never forget this, because this was also around the time that I had just discovered playing D&D. So I had newly come into like being a player. So I was like grabbing books on like how to build your characters and build backstory, and all of the technical things of playing D&D, because I was 11. So I'm like trying to figure this out, and mom is in the other room taking this like workshop. And I remember coming in, and mom is like, oh, this is really fascinating. She's taking all these notes, she's like really engaged, because this is Charles DeLint, right? And she's asking questions, and I'm just a kid, and I'm just like, D&D, like I just did not care. And so later, Charles DeLint started to do, I don't know what you want to call them, like a garage sale, I guess, if you will, but a book garage sale kind of deal. So he would receive like advanced reader copies of other people's novels, and he would read through them and give feedback or give a testimonial. And then afterwards, he would just give them to other people, like share the reading wealth and say, hey, like I've got a first edition copy of such and such. Yeah, and he would
grand.
just sell out
Okay. Yeah.
like all of these books. And so we would go to his place and talk with Marianne, and we were actually like friends with Charles DeLint, and I remember at a CanCon, he was doing a talk about like, how did you get into writing, and like, how did you get published? And he said, back then we had typewriters, not computers. So you had to edit like by hand, and it was a long and grueling process. And he's like, honestly, I just got lucky that someone like read what I wrote and thought it was good. And that's how I got into it. He's like, there's no magic formula. It's a matter of if someone, resonates with your story. Like at that time, that was how you got into it. And it was that day at CanCon that I was like, I have a greater respect for Charles DeLint than I knew before. Because before I still had him on that, like, I can't, really say anything because he's a published author. He knows all these things, da 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 da. And then after that moment, I was like, wow, he's incredibly humble and awesome, and just is going through the motions.
He is, to me, when I met him, the a big bear with an active imagination. That's what I actually said, because
Yeah.
I he knows he needs to be poked a little bit, because he tends, wherever he is, that's like wherever he is in his head, that's where he likes to be. And he
Yeah.
knows that life needs him to sometimes come back to earth. So he's okay with a little poking, but you don't want to poke that bear a little too hard, because he will bite you. And I know
Oh,
that
yeah.
about, yeah, I know that about him. That was the impression. Smart guy, talented guy, sweet
Mhm.
guy. I honestly, I was like, I got to interview him, and he's fascinating. It
He is.
he's a fascinating guy. I read so much of his stuff when I was younger. I actually he ruined
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman. He ruined Neil Gaiman for me. He actually did,
What?
because see, because here's why. Because I read him first. I read him first, and I read Ray Bradbury before I read
Yep.
Gaiman. So
Ah,
by the time I got to gaming, it wasn't magical for me. Not like it was for other people. I'm not saying gaming's bad. I will never
yeah,
say that in a million years. He's great at what he does. But Ray Bradbury beat him to it with Mars, and
yep,
Charles beat him to it with Newford. Because
yeah.
I enjoy the subtle magic of it. I'm actually super happy he's going back into that world. I understood why he walked away. We talked about that. Why when he told Chili's story, he was done for a while. Because what else was there really need to be said? Not
Yeah,
much, right? He had to come up with something, another reason to go back and go forward with it again. And I thought, okay, and I understood that too, because it's like he told a lot of great Newford stories, and he did it for so
he did.
long.
Yeah.
Um,
My favorite of his will always be the first I read of his, which was Traitor.
that's a good one.
Yeah, and I just loved the idea of what if you're put in someone else's body and now you have to deal with the consequences and just go with it, and then the flip side, the person who got your body, it now has to be like super intelligent, and you being in their body is like, wow, this guy is an asshole and a dummy, and like cheats on women and is just like an awful human being, and you
He's a
get to
scumbag. Yeah,
see, yeah,
yeah.
like it's a fascinating concept, and I absolutely love that. And then afterwards I read Jack.
Okay,
Yeah,
Jack Hero.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, wow, this is
My
fantastic.
So my favorite of his is Moonheart. I
Mhm.
love Moonheart. It is such a
A
really
lot of people really love that too. Yeah.
because it's sometimes in one sense I love Witterson's Promises to Keep and the Ending Girl, the Julie Capricorn finale trilogy.
Yep. Yep.
I love that because it's a real look at the heart, the soul of his series. But if I really want to go like an elegant Charles Dillon story, start to finish, with the characters he likes to write and tell, it's Moonheart every
Yeah.
time. Because the things he cares about don't change that much. If you look
Yeah.
from book, they don't. It's a lot of. Don't get me wrong. I love some of his concepts are amazing. The Crow Girls. I have a big
Oh.
soft spot for. I have a big soft spot for the Crow Girls.
Yeah.
But um, for me, I like Moonheart. If I were to introduce someone to Charles Lynn, that's the book I'd introduce them to because that's the
Yeah.
book where I feel he was able to tell his full story and do it in a way like and it's a beautiful story. The one afterwards is I can't remember. God damn, what's the one afterwards? The sequel. Blah 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 blah. Blah. It's not as good, but it's still decent.
I don't remember.
Then there like so the other that one I like. My first one I read from him was Yarrow, which is also really fun.
Mhm.
Which is a really fun one. I love his young adult stuff. His young adult
Yeah.
stuff is I think is the other part. I like him when he's at his most elegant, and for me, I find that's the case when he's telling. I'm not gonna say easier stories, but simpler ones.
Yeah.
And I like that's where I like him because it's not he gets to the heart of what matters to him quicker. That
Yeah.
all said, I was really happy when I read Wittershin said Jilly got her happy ending. I thought of all
Yeah.
the characters he had, um, that she was the one character that kind of like I wanted to have like you okay, have your happy ending because. But
Yeah.
I also realized that when I read that it's like he doesn't need to tell another Newford story ever again.
Mhm.
Darn.
Yeah, and it
You,
makes you feel sad when you get to
yeah,
when
when you realize that, but at the
yeah.
same time you're like, but it needs to be told. Like
Yeah.
I totally like that. Um, yeah, me too.
Mhm.
I really, really am looking forward to that. I will probably pick that up at some point.
Yeah.
I had to. I made the decision though that like if I do get Charles Dillon, buy more Charles Dillon books again, it's only going to be a handful this time. I used to have all of them. I actually
Oh
do.
my god. What was it? A few years back, Mom and I went to some cafe, in Ottawa that I don't even yeah, The
Yes,
Wind in His Heart
yes, I have.
is
Yes,
the
I have.
book release that I'm talking about. When he released that book, he played some music and signed books for people and gave out like the ebook sort of as well, for people, you know, um And I remember this distinctly because, people come up to get autographs and whatnot. And I was there, just chatting with him and chatting with Marianne and having drinks because we're all at a bar. We're just having a good time at this book launch. And this one guy came up with, I kid you not, a box or two of like every fucking
Yeah.
Charles DeLint book he had. And Charles DeLint is like, all right, here we go. And apparently this guy had been to like all of his, book launches
Yeah.
and whatnot, and was like, all right, give me the next 10, and just signing mindlessly. I'm like,
So
wow.
I have a fun Kelly Armstrong. I have a similar story with Kelly.
Really?
Yeah, I know. She was a guest star at Creative Inc. in Vancouver, and I had gone to Creative. It was my first year going, and Pat Flowing, yeah, is I don't know, who Pat Flowing is.
Mom remembers that guy, yeah.
Oh no, I'm sure Pat did. Pat was probably a little sad actually when that happened. But Kelly Armstrong, so there's this other person who's huge. Kelly Armstrong, all of her books, all of them, to the point that no one else could get their books signed because she had so everything.
If I ever become like the most famous author ever, please, people, don't bring every single book I've ever written up to me at one
Or
time.
if you
Like,
or no, if you
don't
do,
kill the author.
if you do, set the limit. Like I say, I'll do like you know what, you go back to the end of the line, and everybody once everybody's done, I'll sign them all.
Yeah,
right? But
exactly.
you go back. I do 5. You go back. You come back around again. I'll do 5 more until everybody's done, and that's it. And
Actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because that's how you get around that. Because basically what you're saying is, yeah, you know what, I respect this, but
Yeah.
everybody else has got to be served too. Yeah, of course that's what Charles did because
Yeah.
it's the only way. It's the only fair way to do it. It's the only fair way to do it. You have
That's
to
true.
you have to respect. You got to remember something. You're serving as an author. You're serving not only the people buying your book right now, but you're serving the people that supported you all the way at the beginning.
Exactly.
You are. So you can't just say to the guy with the giant stack of your books, I'm not signing all those because honestly, that's not fair. They've worked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm not saying like, throw them off to the wayside, but it's sort of also not fair to everybody else who has taken time out of their day.
So you balance
Like
you balance it. So you just say, I'll do 5 at a time while there's a
Mhm.
line. If at the end you still got books left, I'll sign the rest of them all then there. So you got to
Exactly.
go back to the line after 5.
Or, buy me a few drinks, like you get to
No,
the
no,
back
no,
of the
no,
line.
no, no, no.
Oh,
I'm
come
gonna
on.
veto that one.
Why?
No,
Why? This is my idea. You don't have to do it.
it's not that. Listen, because then nobody's gonna get sick. Because all that's gonna happen is he's gonna be like, I just buy you more drinks. I'm gonna stay at the front of the line. See, that's not good. See, it's not good. Then no. There's
Well,
also that. There's also
obviously.
that.
I
But
am not completely crazy, just partially crazy.
yeah, so I'm just like, this is why I'm talking her off the ledge anyway, ladies, because see, what I'm bringing out with her is really simply that that's a bad plan because someone will oblige you. And I realize that's what you want, but that's actually a bad plan. Do it. So what you want is you balance it, right? You figure out a book limit. Like I can do 5 relatively quick, and then everybody else can come in, and you go back to the end of the line again because again, you always be grateful to people to help you. No one has to help you ever, and I've
No,
learned
that's true.
right. I've learned this a long time ago. Like I'm grateful for the little things because um, the little things are what get you forward. It's
Yeah.
not the big, don't get me wrong. I would love to say that writing makes me a millionaire. I would love to say that. I think
Mhm.
if we were all really honest with ourselves, like we want to make a living doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, right? We also got to realize like getting there is very often an affirmation of a bunch of little steps along the way.
Yes. Yeah.
Very few of us. What I have learned, this is the biggest thing I've learned doing this, right? Most of us, when we get to the point where people start really noticing us, it's that gut check of how did we get there? What did we do right? What can we possibly do to fuck it up? And how to avoid it?
Exactly.
If you can do those 3 things, if You can do
Yeah.
those 3 things.
I love that everything you do and talk about is like rules of 3.
Yeah,
Like it's just a
but
consistent theme.
it works.
It's
It
law.
works. Well,
It's the way things are.
it works, right? It works. I find when you do 1 and 2, people expect a third. Also, if I do just 1 and I harp on it, they'd be like, "I get you. Shut the fuck up." Just right,
Also
right.
true.
3, right? But 3 is a nice number because it's enough of a story to pay attention, and if it's pertinent, it will stick with you. And that's kind of
Yeah.
the hope, right? So, I've learned that you just try to keep it nice and simple. But again, going back to the very beginning of this conversation, my shit stinks, and
Yeah.
I'm well aware that my shit stinks. So what I want to do is make sure that the shit that stinks doesn't get in the way of the good things I've worked very hard to get.
Yeah.
You know, you busted your ass too. So I
Oh,
mean,
hell yeah.
you get there, you're gonna have that psycho fan with that 20 books. I'm coming down from.
I'm gonna find another me that's like, "Wah!" right in your face, and then I'll be like,
you're like
"Jesus
this.
Christ!"
You're like, that's impressive. So thank you. And you might blush a little bit actually because it's like, oh my god, someone actually did this. But people are like the coolest thing. The coolest thing about people is we do get obsessed. We get passionate about things.
Oh, we do.
It can be detrimental sometimes, but we've talked about books we like, video games we like, and for the last 2 and that bit hours, and because we are obsessed with the stuff we love, right? That's who we are, and that's the best stuff, you know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So So on that note, we've gone quite a long time.
We have. I am hungry.
I figure, and you got stuff to do. But before we go, actually, 2 last questions, and then we'll get to the plugging. All-time favorite video game.
All-time favorite video game, 100% will always be Life is Strange.
Interesting.
There is a long story with that. I did write, so you are familiar with Ed Greenwood. Okay, so he tried to start up his own publishing company, had a whole line of authors to write books in these worlds that he had created and that kind of thing. He also had a magazine that people could pitch articles to, and the theme for one of the magazines was music and how that furthers a narrative. And I wrote about, very iconic pieces in video games that pushed forward a narrative. So of course I include like the victory music from Final Fantasy, and the Doom soundtrack, the 2016, freaking amazing. Oh my god. And I number one said the Life is Strange soundtrack gets me every time. I cannot listen to Mount Washington, the song, without like feeling hurt and crying and just feeling awful, because when you first hear that song, it's like it's a wonderful song and everything is good, and it's like the starting of the game and you're establishing the character and the ideas, and then later that song plays again, but when something horrible has happened, and then you realize the implication of what the song is saying. And now it's like every time I hear that song, I can't not think about that whole progression in that. And it's one of the very few games that has actually got me to a point where, one, I screamed at my computer and told Square Enix to fuck off and got up and walked away for a half an hour while I'm crying and screaming at the same time, like, you cannot make me make that decision, you bastards. And the whole time knowing exactly what I'm deciding. But I was mad at the game because they forced me to make that decision. So I came back and made the decision, and then you get to the end of the game. And again, I'm not going to like talk about it, but I did something that other people didn't do. And then I justified why I made the decision I made. And people are like, That's interesting because we didn't think about that, and so like the conclusion that I came to at the end of that, people are like, well, that wouldn't have happened, but we can see why you decided what you did. And like, it was such an impactful series that anything Life is Strange, like I can't wait till True Colors comes out in September, because it's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me because the protagonist is exactly like me. I feel people's emotions very strongly sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And this character also feels emotions, but how they represent that in video game format is like an aura, I guess. And I'm all for it, but I also know it's Life is Strange. They're gonna kick you right down in terms of emotion. Like I love Life is Strange. That
Yeah, I picked up on that. Her walls are interesting, anime lady. They're very much like mine,
yeah.
right? So they're very much like mine. So we both have certain. It's why I'm such a good interviewer is because I can feel people and I can
Yeah,
listen. Right?
you can tell like where things are going.
Yeah, somewhat,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Somewhat. The other secret is I've learned to listen, and I've learned like what isn't said, and I
Yeah.
can actually I can call, and like I said, when I said earlier, I don't have time. That's why I know what isn't said there, and that's kind of why you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things like I picked up on it. It's just what I do. So mine, I'll just give you mine, and then we'll get to the wonderful plugs of what you're doing and why you're awesome and all that other wonderful
Oh,
fun
thank you.
stuff. Yes, but so two, Persona 3,
Mhm.
the story gets me because I again my own personal experience with my own mortality. That game in particular hits me very hard because I know both sides of that equation. Like I know both sides of that equation so well, and the end is beautiful and sad. I really enjoyed that the beautiful end. But if I gotta go for like the game that gives me the most nostalgia and the one that makes me kind of go really fun, it's Final Fantasy 6. I
Yeah.
have to give it that one because it was my first RPG, right?
Mhm.
And but also the bad guy won. The bad guy wins halfway through the game, and it's
Yeah.
like I did not expect that. And when it happened,
Yeah.
it's like in that going on in the face of doubt. I suddenly understand why I maybe shaped the way I am. I'm kind of because I grew up. It's like you grew up with the end of the world and you kept going, so you just do it in the real world too. It's kind of like how that works. So
Yeah, exactly. It's so crazy how video games can shape how you perceive the world.
yeah.
For sure. Like there are so many really good examples, and I really hope that more and more people see how much good video gaming can bring.
So we're gonna have to cut this for the day because you need to eat and you need to get ready for your next thing. But I'm gonna say this: the next time we do have this conversation on my podcast again, because I get the feeling you would like to come back someday. I would
Oh
imagine
yeah. Oh
this
yeah,
is
we
fun.
have so much to talk about. Oh my god.
But the one thing, and we'll leave the people a little cliffhanger here. Video games are really mocked by television because television knows that video games are its death now, and that
Yep.
will be where we'll start next time. But for this time, you have a Twitch channel.
I
You have
do.
you do right.
Twitch.tv/Jagtress.
So let's put that bad boy in there. So
I have a few. I'll do this one at a time. I
yeah,
can start typing too if you want.
if you want to type them, type them. That's
Oh,
cool.
okay.
I'm
Cool.
lazy. I can be lazy. That's great.
Yeah, I am fully stocked. So you can find me here. You can find me on. I love how that double did its thing. I can type, I promise. Today is not an editing day. Also, slash Jagtress. Nope.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all my. Oh, and also, if you want to. I haven't written on it in a while, but I do want to get back to it. My actual website.
Ah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So
So
guys,
on. On Patreon, I have 2 different tiers, the writing and the gaming tier, but because I have the Patreon bot in my Discord server, if you are a pledge for one or the other, you actually in Discord get access to both the videos. So you're not going to have to double pay if you like both the writing stuff and the gaming stuff. So,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Well, guys, this is Jagtress. I met her at CanCon. She's great. Awesome writer, awesome person. Like I said, we could keep talking, but she's
Oh,
got,
we could.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's got to do stuff. So I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for stopping in tonight. This was a great chat and conversation. Unexpected that we had a comedian come in the middle of the conversation.
I know that was. I'm gonna check out that channel more.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It's like I said, it's cool. Right people, right place, right time, and things. So I honestly, Jag, thank you very much for coming on my show.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And for everybody else, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe me on Twitch, twitch.tv, Joshing Podcast. My YouTube channel is Josh Pantelresco. I'm starting to catch up on all the videos. I've been overdue for the last week and a half because I got lazy, and I admit it freely. Right. It's Poetry Month. Alice Zero is out, and I'm really, really proud of it. I'm going to Lights Out is going to be my next release. You know, she's going to be.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And
I'm excited.
Yeah. So on that note, guys, stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. Tomorrow, noon, Rich Perota is going to give me some drawing lessons. It's going to be fun. Anyways, Take care, everybody.
Bye.